What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Corey, and today we're going to talk about the Jaguars and Titans game that is coming up tomorrow. It is Saturday night. Just got done watching the Army-Navy game, and it made me excited. It was one of those games that was just really, it was super boring and low scoring up until the end of the third quarter, and then from the fourth quarter on until the end of second overtime, it was a blast. I was actually really excited. Probably the best Army-Navy game I've ever seen. Normally that game's kind of one of those, well, there's nothing else to watch, so might as well put it on. But it was awesome, and I will say that's kind of gets me really hyped when a good Saturday football game gets me excited for Sunday. So yeah, it's a couple hours later. I've been looking at some stats, looking at a little bit of the happenings of Saturday, and make sure Trevor Lawrence looks like he's good to go tomorrow. Looks like we got a lot of stuff that should give us a good advantage actually over the Titans, I think, tomorrow. The Titans, I mean, they're such a tough team that it's one of those things that I'm always nervous about. They always seem to have our number, and they've just always been like our kryptonite. I don't get it. I don't understand why, and it makes me just like, that's the only team I hate is the freaking Tennessee Titans. And they have players I actually like. They have a lot of talent. They have a lot of stuff that in any other week, I actually look at them, even though they're a AFC rival, and I look at them like fantasy, for example. They've got a lot of great fantasy players. Derrick Henry, of course, he destroys us most of the time. Goes for at least a buck, maybe $150, a couple touchdowns, just about every time he plays us. So I'm hoping that tomorrow we can bounce back from that really, really terrible game last week. It was embarrassing. I think a lot of people want to. They're a little bit more driven. I think they're looking at it this week like this is the week to bounce back. Now, we have a lot riding on this game, right? If you're a Jaguars fan, you probably know all this, so I'm just going to recap it a little bit before I get into any bit of previewing, and then do a little bit of predictions, and then we'll wait till tomorrow and see how the game turns out before I do another video. But yeah, it looks like Trevor Lawrence, like I said, he's good to go from his injury as far as it looks like. Hopefully, knock on wood, that he doesn't, trip going down the stairs into the stadium or something. Otherwise, he looks like he should play tomorrow. And it doesn't look like we have too many people. We got Zay Jones is questionable. Who knows what that is? Maybe something, some soreness or something from last week. He definitely wasn't himself last week. I don't know what it was. Something about it's definitely didn't have him in the zone. So hopefully it's just one of those things they just needed to mark a few players on there. Other than that, it looks like we're going to have pretty much everybody ready to go. I don't see any crazy defensive problems. Chad Muma is out, actually, now that I see that. He had a decent game last week, but he's also not somebody that I think is going to be a game changer this week, even though he is the starter there. I think Devin Lloyd will come in and do just fine. And Andre Sisco's questionable, and to be honest, he's been hit or miss this year. So again, a couple different things. We might have Daniel Thomas out there playing safety, which isn't the greatest. Get a couple other people on there. It looks like otherwise we have a little bit better of a roster than the Titans are looking at this week. They got Treylon Burks, one of their top wide receivers, is out. They got C.J. Board, he's also out. He's a good wide receiver, back up to Robert Woods. Kyle Phillips injured reserve. Cody Hollister is injured reserved. And Ryan Tannehill, man, he's a good quarterback, but he's not a running quarterback necessarily. Now he can, okay, he can. He's one of those people that's I think a lot of defenses underestimate what Tannehill can bring, because if you didn't pay attention to Tannehill when he was doing his thing down in Miami, man, he knew what he was doing down there, and he had just nobody working with him, and he was a very similar situation. It was like the culture in Miami just didn't have anybody that believed that it could do something other than what it was already doing. And now you can see when they get a new coach in there, they get some young talent, some players who start to believe in some things. They made some trade deals. Now you've got, Tua throwing to Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, and you see that Miami is reaping the rewards of it. You got three guys that love to play football, love to win, and I think that's more important than just the pure talent, even though they're all great players as well. I think that does speak to it. So I think it's kind of the similar thing. We're in that boat where we need some players that are going to step up this week, because there's going to be some guys like Derrick Henry, Robert Woods, and Tannehill. Those three. I always think there's always going to be two players, whether a receiver, running back, or two receivers, that are going to just go off. And of course, your quarterback's got to be one of them. So if we can contain Tannehill, that's going to be the start, right? Let's talk about defense. If we're going to contain Tannehill in any way, because Tannehill knows what he's doing. He's great at reading defenses. He's great at knowing his moments. When he sees open fields, if he sees 5-10 yards in front of him, he doesn't hesitate. He runs. He's not your typical, and I think a lot of people relate him to a Brady-esque style where he sits in the pocket, looks a little jittery, makes a few good throws, makes a few bad throws, but he makes decent plays when he needs to. And he's not a huge runner, but he can run when he wants to, just to pick up those extra yardage. And I kind of think more of like an Andy Dalton style, where he's quick on his feet, he makes good decisions. It's just that sometimes the luck just isn't on his side, or the ball doesn't bounce the right way for him on a tip, and he gets an interception or something, so he gets a little bit of a bad name there. However, I think realistically, he's really fallen into his own now that he's got a great coach. Mike Vrabel is just incredible, and then you've got good players. Again, Robert Woods is a great wide receiver, and Derrick Henry is just a workhorse. So when you have that relief system going on there, there's not nearly as much stress on the quarterback. He can play a little bit more free. Mistakes, or can go in one ear out the other real quick. And you can actually, push the ball down the field and actually score points. So it's going to take some players on our team, I think, and that's going to be our starters here. Because, of course, we're going to need some second team like Adam Gotsis. I think Devin Lloyd's going to have to step up for Chad Muma. Wingard, Wingard's going to have to do something. It's like these guys are going to have to step up, because we can't just have Rayshon Jenkins. We can't just have Tyson Campbell, making plays on the outside when a big run busts open and they happen to be the guy on first down that just has the speed to cover it. We're going to need guys to step up on second and third down when they're looking to, hand the ball off to Derrick Henry, get some big runs. So we're going to really need people like Josh Allen. We're really going to need people like Devon Hamilton and Trayvon Walker to actually step up this week. Now, of course, I sound like a broken record, and this is only my second video, but it's one of those things where it's just like obscene, the lack of effort I have seen from these guys the last couple of weeks. And of course, I'm not in the game. I can't, speak for that, but it's one of those things that from watching it doesn't look like they're giving as much effort as all the other players on the field. Not just us, but just in general, just everybody on the other side of the ball looks like they're just manhandling our guys. Like our guys just don't want to be on that field. They don't want to play. They don't want to win. So I want to see that step up. I want to see some, something from Josh Allen. And at the same time, this is going to go down to Caldwell as well, because he's just playing the worst defensive schemes. We can't have these, we do these little like powder puff shifts and these, kind of drop back looks, but we're dropping back people like Josh Allen into like screen coverage, man. Like what, dude, you can't do that. No offense to Josh Allen, but Josh Allen is an edge rushing beast. He's a power guy. You get him in front of somebody and he'll move that body out of the way and get to the ball. Like, he's not going to catch somebody that's faster than him. That's not his forte there. That's why you've got these little guys like a Wingard and some of these other dudes, Rayshon Jenkins, that can actually fly around and get to the ball when the ball's actually in play. You need those guys, but you gotta use the strengths of some of these guys. Try and get some of this stuff, some of these mixes. Get some of these movements once the ball's hiked. Some of these edge rushers moving to the inside, some of these, inside nose guards moving out around the backside, and confusing some of the offensive linemen. Do something, man, because your defensive schemes are boring. Everyone, they drop into zone. It's so easy to be like, well, if they're dropping 2, I got 3 zones to throw into. If they're dropping 3, I got 2 zones to throw into, possibly 4, depending on what they leave open on the ends. And you can pick that apart immediately. You go, oh, safety's moving left, I got the open right. It's whatever you're looking at. If you're Tannehill, and you can go, well, it's easy to pick this apart because there's not really anything other than a couple little powder plays that don't really have anything to do with what we're doing. We need to actually interject them into our movement and our schemes, because having the stuff pre-snap doesn't help when it doesn't do anything post-snap and they run right by it because they're actually blocking and just manhandling you. Like, they don't care if you're gonna do some pre-snap stuff. So that's going to be the biggest thing, is defense has to step up, because Tennessee cannot score. I'm going to say if Tennessee scores more than 24 points, we lose this game. We cannot let them score more than 24 points. And I'm going to break that down quarterly. If they have 21 points going into the fourth quarter, then I think we have a chance. Anything less than that, unless we happen to just be going off on offense, then I think we're in trouble. So let's talk about the offense then. In that case, we have Trevor Lawrence and C.J. Beathard. Now, the problem with that is that Trevor Lawrence is technically questionable. C.J. Beathard, I actually like C.J. Beathard. I liked him when he was in San Francisco. He's a really chill dude. He's not necessarily a gunslinger or anything, but he knows how to work an offense, and he can utilize it and not make mistakes, and I like that about him. But again, he doesn't have that leadership, motivational, front at anything. He's not a Mike White. He's not going to come in here and own up, Trevor Lawrence. However, Trevor seems like he's good to go. Seems like everything's going to be fine, so I'm not too worried about it. What I am worried about is that we really need Travis Etienne to step up this week. He hasn't been good. He hasn't been doing anything. At least last week. A couple weeks ago, he had a couple great games, But again, I said in my last video, he's been inconsistent. From what I've seen, since he had a really, really great breakout game, he's been inconsistent. He's had a few good plays, a few good runs, but he does bonehead stuff at the worst time. I mean, second play of the game, you can't fumble, man. You can't fumble at the goal line. You can't fumble in the red zone. You can't do certain things. It happened earlier in the Army-Navy game. It was literally what changed the game. It's like you fumble right before you score a touchdown, you disappoint everybody, and those are the things you absolutely can't do. Winners don't do that, unless you just keep playing long enough to just get back in there and try again. But same with Zay Jones and Christian Kirk. Some of these guys, they got to step up. Now Marvin Jones, I give him a pass. He's just a little bit older. He's not making the moves and the cuts as quite as fast as some of these other guys that are a little younger than he is. However, he's so consistent with his actual hands that I love Marvin Jones to death. He's great at actually getting up and high pointing the ball and coming down with it. And Evan Ingram has had great hands lately too. I'd rather see him in there than Chris Manhertz. It looks like from what I see on the depth chart that Dan Arnold is now third in the depth chart there. Maybe he was always third, but I thought he was second at one point. I like Dan Arnold. I wouldn't mind seeing him in there a little bit too. When he's hot, he's hot. But Evan Ingram has been a big help. But I would like to see the tight ends utilized this week. We're going to have to do that on Titans. The Titans defense, again, they have no studs on defense hardly. They've got a couple guys that aren't too bad, but I'm not too worried about any of their backs. I'm not too worried about their safety protection. I think if we can get the right plays and Trevor can hit the throws, we've got some great players. We just need to have the right plays. And Doug Peterson's a great play caller. So I think if he's using the same thing, if he's looking to say play in zone, let's use some quick, post routes, get the tight ends and the slot receivers out there doing some quick things and actually get the guys to get some momentum this time. I think that's the problem too. We run some terrible play calls. We do 2 runs and a pass play, and then we're 3 and out, and we don't have any time to get more people, motivated in the game and more people involved, because I hate to say it, I think throwing the ball 3 times on your first possession is probably the best way you can spend your very first possession. And one of those plays should be a pass, possibly a screen or maybe a little out route to your running back, because what that does really is get your quarterback immediately into a rhythm of throwing at least 3 passes. Now, if he throws a pick six, sorry, it happens. You got to come back from that. That's part of the game, and that's kind of the risk you take. But I think those 3 passes, you get 2 receivers, your quarterback, and a running back involved in the game right off your first possession. And if one of those guys can't make some kind of a play, even if you don't get a first down, at least get somebody started, because it's going to become a bigger thing. And I think that's what that second possession helps in the beginning of the game, when you get that second possession on offense and you finally get to start settling in. And then same thing with the other team. The other team gets to look at what you're going to do and figure that out, and then they go out there and take those chances because they see that you ran the ball twice and did a 5-yard out route that went nowhere, punted, and then they don't want to start the same way. so yeah, you got to be able to step up a little bit. But I think there's going to be some of that importance here, because again, we're AFC South has a decent chase going on. I don't believe we're going to get in the playoffs, even though we're not technically out of it yet. So the big thing is, though, if we lose this game, we're out of the playoffs. If we win this game, right? If we beat Tennessee this week, we play Tennessee again later. That will take us 1 game, I think, away, or 2 games back from them in the AFC South. What that will do, though, is put us into the second place position in the AFC South ahead of the Colts, because now we'll be 1 game ahead of the Colts, and they technically beat us in the tiebreaker, and we have the same record right now. So what that would do, though, is get us 1 game closer to the Titans, make the Titans lose 1 game in the AFC. We would win 1 game in the AFC. We also play the Texans later on. Same thing. If we beat the Texans, that'll be a big win for us in the AFC, and then we play the Titans again. Now, that game, January 8th, could have huge, absolutely gigantic playoff implications at this point. Or at least wild card, there's a chance. Let's just say hypothetically the Jaguars win outright. Right now we're 4-8. We would be 9-8 if we win the rest of our games. Now that's absolutely insane considering we have to play the Cowboys and the Jets and the Titans again. All teams that are decent teams that I don't think are necessarily better than. I think if we have great games, I do think we can beat the Titans. It's going to start with tomorrow. If we can actually take off tomorrow and do something with this team, we have a chance. It's got to be a miracle run. We got 5 games. If we can go 5-0 in the last 5 games of this season, these guys got to believe it, though. I believe it. That's why I'm sitting here doing this video, because I'm looking at this going, dude, we can do this. It's just going to take belief, effort, and everything you can possibly think of. Because, I mean, vice versa, when you look at, let's take the Tennessee Titans, right? Their schedule remaining, they've got us and the Texans. I think if they beat the Texans, same thing. We're pretty much screwed at that point. But if we beat them the 2 times and then, they for some reason lose to the Texans, then we have taken it. That's what I mean. There's things that just have to happen, and I think it's not unreasonable to think that they could happen. Now, us and the Titans possibly beating the Cowboys, I don't think is going to happen. Titans and the Chargers, who knows? But same thing. If we have a better record than the Titans, if they lose some of these games, they are playing the Chargers and the Cowboys and us again. Like, if they lose those games, there's a big chance that we might be able to overtake them in the AFC South. Now, again, this is all wishful thinking. There's also the Colts to worry about. The Colts are in there. We don't play the Colts, but the Colts and the Texans, they could, play upset. So there's a lot to think about here. I'm just more worried that I just want to see Trevor Lawrence have some games where he's actually out there gunslinging, man. I want to see these guys really getting out there, hitting guys on defense. I want to see bodies flying. I want to see tackles, wrapping guys, hitting them from the waist down, spearing them, getting them on the ground. I don't care what you have to do, hop on their back. Just do not miss tackles. Get some turnovers. Go for the ball, man. Like, do some things. Take some risks. Like, let's try. I mean, we've had a losing culture here for 20 years, at least, other than maybe 3 or 4 good seasons. It's like we got to do some things at this point. We're getting into the groove of things, and there's still things to play for this season. I know we're 4-8, but again, there's 5 games to go. There's things that we can do. So that's going to be pretty much all I got to say about what I think we need to do here. I think it's just going to come down to some guys. And who knows? There's always some guys that have been stepping up. I think like Jamal Agnew. Who knows, man? He steps up with random huge punt and kick returns all the time. Jermichael Hasty, I absolutely am not a fan of him. However, he had a decent game the other day when Travis Etienne was doing terrible. And maybe that's the thing. Maybe he's a garbage time running back. I don't know. It's just I want to see some guys that I don't normally see do well. I want to see them do some things. I want to see some interesting play calls. I want to see some of that because that 2-point conversion was good. There was a couple of drives last week that were good. It was just we got manhandled on defense. Got to see them step up. And got to see these guys look like they want to be there. I just hope these guys look at it and go, you know what? We haven't beat Tennessee in a while. Tennessee normally has our number. Let's come out and do this. Let's do this for Jacksonville. Let's do it for Duval Nation. Let's do it for the people who've been there since Bortles has been there. We got to be a Bortles fan. And even before Bortles, of course. Got plenty of guys before Bortles. Back to the Mark Brunell days. But yeah, I think this starts with it. This could be make the whole rest of the holiday season fun for Jacksonville fans. So let's do it. I'm gonna take final score. I gotta go Jags. I'm gonna go 30-24. Yep, I'm gonna do that one. I think it's gonna be close. I think Jaguars are gonna take it though. I think we're gonna do this one in Tennessee for the first time since 2014. I think we're going to do it. It's going to be a big game for Doug Peterson. It's going to be a big game for Duval, and I think it's going to set us up for the rest of the weeks. And I think tomorrow when I upload another video, we're going to be talking about some good news and not some bad news. So we'll see how this ages. Hopefully like fine wine and not fermented like shit. Please. Please, God. Please, my Jags. We can do this. All right. Peace out. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Good luck. And let there be football.